Getting a call up to the UFC is like you get a winning lottery ticket and then you don't go to the news agency to hand it in. I don't want to look back when I'm older and I've missed my athletic prime that I'm looking back and I'm like, I should have gave it a crack, you know? So I'm actually giving it a crack and, you know, I'm happy to and grateful to be in the position that I'm in. I still, to this day, I still feel like when I'm waiting in the back and they're just about to call us out, I just like think, why am I doing this? I might get embarrassed, you know, I might get hurt.
We're here at Eagle MMA Gym in Bondi with Josh Culibao, UFC Featherweight fighter. I see your nickname Kuya. Who come up with that nickname and what does it mean?
It's essentially, it's a Filipino term for big brother. I was always the youngest in the gym, but I sort of gained the respect from all the boys in the gym. They sort of looked up to me. Even though they were older than me, they sort of looked up to me as like an older brother because what I was doing and just the way I handled myself, like sort of like a role model. Okay. So they all call me Kuya, which meant big brother. So plus I like it because it kind of goes back to my Filipino heritage as well.
I like that, man. It's a bit better than my nickname, Grub.
Grub.
So yeah, it's a bit nicer. And yeah, I don't want to tell you how I got that name. It hasn't got a nice background. Let's just say that, but we'll steer clear. But mate, you grew up in New South Wales, in Sydney, and you know you've got rugby league, soccer, rugby union, but you sort of started in Taekwondo. Why'd you go into Taekwondo instead of all these sort of other sports that are more dominant?
I started Taekwondo because my eldest brother, Justin, was training Taekwondo and he thought it was really beneficial. It was good for the self-esteem, good for fitness, something to do after school. And yeah, I just followed suit. And then all my friends were doing either like, you know, AFL, they were doing rugby league, rugby union, basketball. But for me, it was... you know, I didn't really find my identity. I didn't feel like I belonged in those. Where with martial arts, I felt like this is me. This is truly me, you know. Yeah, it was my thing.
You obviously went into MMA.
Yep.
How did you make that transition? And I suppose what made you want to go from Taekwondo into MMA?
Growing up, I watched like the first sort of UFCs, and then I saw this skinny dude doing jiu-jitsu, and he beat all these different types of styles of martial arts, kickboxing, you know, wrestling, and he beat all of them like pretty relatively easily without, you know, having to beat up on these guys. So I was like, that's the sport that I needed to learn, which was jiu-jitsu. And then obviously I found jiu-jitsu and it just kind of snowballed into where I am now, which is doing everything, you know.
It wasn't always smooth sailing. You had to, you know, juggle MMA with the job. You're an electrician, mate. How did you find that time where, you know, you had to be at work for 8 hours and then come and train after or before? Because, mate, I can imagine how hard it would have been.
Man, it was hard. It was being an apprentice. You know, you're definitely they're the ones telling you what to do. You always got the hardest jobs, taxing on the body and on the mind. You know, having to wake up Monday, work 8 hours, and get to the gym, train all night, come home, sleep, and then do the repeat. You know, Monday to Friday. So it was, in a sense, it was hard, but it was also I gained the satisfaction of doing it.
Yeah, I can relate. I was a plumber while playing reserve grade for the Bulldogs, and I reckon it's probably the hardest period in my life because you want your goal so bad.
Yeah, that's it.
But then you also got to earn the cash.
That's it,
and
exactly.
I feel that's where a lot of people fall off the cliff.
Yeah.
And I suppose that's where, you know, blokes like yourself rise to the top.
Yeah, most people, they would have been like, oh, you know what, I'm getting some pretty good coin being a Sparky. I might as well just stick to being a Sparky, you know?
Yeah.
And they'd give up on their actual dreams. But I didn't want to do that. I didn't want to look back, you know, when I'm older and I've missed my athletic prime, that I'm looking back and I'm like, man, I missed it. I should have gave it a crack, you know? So I'm actually giving it a crack and, you know, I'm happy to and grateful to be in the position that I'm in.
Yeah, nice. Did you ever, you know, if your boss asked you to put a bit of pipe up and you couldn't be bothered, did you ever armbar him or anything?
No, I was a pretty good apprentice. I was always, whatever I was told to do, I did, man. And I was pretty good.
Your first MMA fight, your first professional one. You know, we're in this ring now and I'm freaked out and we're not even fighting. I've always wondered how nervous do you get before fights?
I still, to this day, I still feel like when I'm waiting in the back and they're just about to call us out, I just like think, why am I doing this? I'm about to fight in front of my friends and family, and you know, I might get embarrassed in front of all of them, and you know, I might get hurt. But then when the music starts playing and you start walking out, you just feel so alive. You feel like there's the problems that you had before, problems that you have in the future, whether you got something to do in the future, doesn't matter. You just feel so alive in that moment of time, and there's no real way to really explain it besides that. It's unreal. If I have an off night, I'm usually getting hurt really badly, you know, so it's tough, but also that's why I love it. You think you're the man. I was on a 3-fight win streak. And then, you know, this loss kind of puts you back in a perspective that, like, the truth hurts and you do need it.
Your first UFC fight, it was a bit of a weird one.
Yeah.
You went in for Jamie Mullarkey?
Yeah, I took Mullarkey's spot on a short notice call-up. So he just got injured, and then he gave me the heads up about it. And, yeah, I just jumped in and took his spot.
How do you do that? Because for me, preparation is everything. On short notice, mentally, how do you prepare for that?
Man, it's like, again, like getting a call-up to the UFC is like, you get a winning lottery ticket and then you don't go to the news agency to hand it in. So I was like, it's basically the same thing as that, you know? Yeah. So I basically had that fight. And even though I wasn't prepared for the fight, I'm going to go and fight. I don't care. This is my way in. So went in and fought, and regardless of the result, I'm here now, you know?
Yeah, I like that, man. I like that because that's your goal, right?
That's it.
You want to get to the UFC.
Yeah.
And yeah, that's it. You got the opportunity, whether you're ready or not.
Exactly.
Yeah, and you just said, mate, you know, your first fight ended in a loss, second in a draw, but then the third you got the W. Did you find those first 2 fights have helped you win that third fight when your arm got raised?
Yeah, for sure. Again, when I first got to the UFC, I still couldn't believe, oh my God, I can't believe I'm still in the UFC. I'm still sort of starstruck, you know, rubbing shoulders with everybody and seeing my favorite fight over there and seeing another fight over here, and a bit of a like deer in the headlights sort of thing. So yeah, just took it one step at a time and just like realized that I'm at this level now.
And this is why I've always had the utmost respect for UFC fighters, boxers. Very different to anything I've ever done. Sport, I got 12 guys next to me. You know, they got my back.
Yeah.
If I do a cheeky push, someone's got me, you know. But for you, man, you've only got yourself in the ring. It's you against your opponent.
Yeah.
How do you be in this gym, looking in that mirror, one-on-one, thinking, this guy's trying to pick me apart? Like, I've always wondered, like, you must be so mentally strong.
It's a lonely sport at times, you know, when you're out doing your road work and you're alone with your thoughts and you're thinking about, like, why am I doing this again? It's always, you got to figure out what your why is. And it is a hard sport where, like, if you have an off game, you can rely on those 12 other blokes to carry you, where if I have an off night, I'm usually getting hurt really badly, you know. So it's tough, but also that's why I love it. Again, it goes back to being in that moment and just makes you feel so alive. Like, I can't explain it.
Yeah, mate, that's cool, man. You give me shivers. Mate, you mentioned 2 things in that conversation. It was your why, and getting brutally, you know, bashed up sometimes.
Yeah.
In reference, you know, to our 2 sports, there's a lot of things about head knocks at the moment in rugby league.
Yeah.
You know, they're trying to get them out of the game.
Yeah.
They're definitely not getting out of your sport anytime soon.
Yeah.
So, do you ever think about that type of stuff, man, like for your future? And what's your why, man? Like, what is your why?
Oh, the biggest why when I first started this was that, you know, I grew up as a big kid. You know, I always thought people always wrote me off and just never thought that I would achieve to anything like this. So my why was always to prove people wrong. But as I got further and further, like, it didn't matter about what they thought about me. Now my why is not to prove them wrong, but to prove to myself that I'm right, you know, to show that, like, whatever I put my head to, whatever I put my focus to, I can do, you know. So yeah, it gets me a little bit, you know, emotional thinking about it, because it's, yeah, like, if I put my mind to it, I know I can achieve whatever I put my mind to and my focus to. So yeah.
Yeah, that's amazing, mate. And the head knocks, do you ever worry about that stuff?
The head knocks, I do. You know, as much as it is entertainment, you like seeing 2 blokes slug it out and give each other, you know, solid punches to the head and whatnot. But I'm in the sport to, you know, hit and not get hit. So I do have to realize that this sport is dangerous, and obviously the long-term effects of it. You know, I want to get out of this sport before I start obviously slurring my words and like not be able to hold a conversation. You know what I mean? Yeah. So, yeah.
Mate, you were on a three-fight winning streak. Unfortunately, you lost your last fight.
Yep.
How do you cope after a loss? I know when I was younger, after a loss, I wouldn't want to go out for 2 days.
Yeah.
Do you go back, have a look at the video, look at your strategy, or do you just forget it and think about your next fight?
No, of course you use it to fuel you for the next one, give you that burning desire. Yeah, I had a couple of days where I was obviously having a sook about it and like, what I could have done and whatnot. But yeah, you take a step back and you have a look at the bigger picture and what went right and what went wrong, and yeah, and then we just go from there. But yeah, you definitely use the loss as fuel for the next one.
How do you cope with criticism, constructive criticism? Because no one likes that, let's be honest. Everyone says, constructive criticism, but I feel you need it
You
to get better, right?
You do.
Do you cope fairly well with that?
Yeah, you need the reality check. Like sometimes you get a bit too big for your boots. You know what I mean? You think you're the man. You know, I was on a 3-fight win streak. Oh, I don't need to do this and I can do that. And then, you know, this sort of loss kind of puts you back in a perspective that like you don't know everything. You do need to listen to the coaches. And yeah, it's a humbling experience. Humbles you, puts you back down, and the truth hurts, and you do need it.
Yeah, well, accountability is one of the biggest things to move forward, isn't it? Finally, this has been awesome. Thanks so much. But we talk about a legacy. What do you want to be remembered for in this ring, but also as a person?
Yeah, I want to have, obviously, you know, exciting fights. I want people to remember me as a person that always put entertaining fights on. But then outside the cage, like I'll refer back to it, is that like I want people to, you know, look at me and realize like wherever you came from, if you really have drive for something and a real passion for something, you're going to achieve it, you know, no matter what background you come from, no matter where you're from, you know, whatever it is, whatever adversities you face, that if you're really passionate about it, you're gonna achieve whatever you put your mind to. So that's what I'd like to leave.
How good, man. Mate, thanks so much for letting us into your ring, and I'm actually honoured to be able to meet you, man. I'll be following your journey, mate.
Thanks, brother.
Awesome. Thanks,
Appreciate it.
Cheers.